Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Green Wisdom Health Show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are here to educate you with a little bit of fun, laughter, and a lot of informative information about your thyroid today. I know that's an exciting topic, but
it could be.
Well, there's a whole lot of people out there that are experiencing thyroid problems. Roughly about 20 million Americans suffer from some type of thyroid disorder.
I think it's more than that, just depending on who you read and who you believe.
Yeah, and if it's just that, that's about 60%. So your thyroid, it is this small gland that makes a big difference. And for those of you that always think, hey, I think maybe I have a thyroid problem, but I went to the doctor said my thyroid is fine. We are going to educate you today a little bit about what being fine and being optimal is, because believe me, there is a huge difference. And Dr. Lewis is going to break it all down for us. And hopefully you guys will all walk away with some new information. So, Dr. Lewis, tell us about the thyroid. Tell us how they run the test, what they're looking for, what we look for. What's the difference?
How come I always feel put on the spot when Janet does that, like I'm supposed to come up with a Stevenism, something smart. So let me start with something smart. There's not much nutrition in our food. It was horrible in the 70s, and now it's really, really worse. And so people that think they're going to just change their diet and get healthier, living in a fantasy world. But you do need to change your diet to get better. So don't be like a friend of mine. A friend of mine says, beer doesn't really have many vitamins in it. It has a few, but since beer has such few vitamins, he decided he needs to drink a lot of it. Don't be that person. And see, I didn't even name his name. The thyroid's really, really important. And me being a chiropractor, I have to look at things in a structural, functional way, musculoskeletal. And so when we're talking about supporting this or this or this or this, we're also supporting the cell membranes, the things that really hold your body together, which is your musculoskeletal system, and the things that allow you to have locomotion or movement. And I'm going to get, I love going, I can't stay focused, and that could very easily be a sign of hypothyroidism. We hear brain fog all the time, but there are many people that have fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome, and it is almost always part of the issue is a suboptimal thyroid. So I've even had women look at me with tears in their eyes, and their husband's over there hopefully being supportive, and say, do you believe in fibromyalgia? So, well, yes, ma'am. And then tears roll down her eyes, because nobody's believed her. That stuff's real. It can be a simple fix. It's usually not simple. But just think about it. If you have fatigue, lack of endurance, dizziness, joint stiffness, depression, anxiety, difficulty concentrating, the brain fog I talked about, muscle weakness, headaches, worsening PMS, mood swings, irritability, going into the next room and wonder, what in the world did I come in here for? And you're in the bathroom. I mean, how complicated can that be? Panic attacks. And we hear that over and over and over again. And these symptoms could be related to all sorts of things. And I think that it's always wise to see a good MD also. But we see more and more people that are looking for a natural solution. They're beginning to wise up and say, well, I didn't get depressed because I had a deficiency of Paxil, Prozac, Wellbutrin. I got depressed because something else is missing. My thyroid's not functioning correctly because I may have a deficiency of zinc, selenium, B12, B6, folic acid, or the 5-MTHF. There's so many different possibilities. So if I don't do anything in this podcast other than just give you hope, then I've done my job. And before I really get into the meat of the matter, I'd like to thank the people that are referring our podcast to other people. Our listenership has more than doubled recently, so thank you very much. I think the best thing we can do is help another person have a healthier, happier life. And if we do that, then I really know that God will bless you and return the favor and multiply it. So there's just so many things. I had that list of symptoms, and there's so many potential reasons for it. One of the things, and I'm certainly not anti-medical. I think those guys do an incredible job. They really do. Very dedicated, very nice people. But you have to understand, if you're taking drugs, that can very, very, very commonly affect your thyroid medication or alter your thyroid function. Specifically T4 absorption, but sometimes the T4 to T3 conversion. If you're taking an antacid like Tums or Maalox, first of all, you're not digesting real well, and you need to get our lab, which Janet will talk about after a while, but you really need the digestive enzymes and probiotics. And folks, they're not the same thing. Even though they do similar duties, probiotics and digestive enzymes are different. Anybody that's on a cholesterol drug needs to have their thyroid checked out. Even iron supplements, and we put people on iron quite a bit because we check stored iron or ferritin. Sometimes that just gets people well. Anything that's fortified with calcium, and that includes orange juice, calcium supplements, and we have calcium here. I'm not a big fan of just straight calcium. I try to dissuade people away from that. H2 blockers, which is like Zantac and Tagamet and Pepcid, which goes beyond the Tums and Maalox. High fiber diets, and it's not that some people don't need a higher fiber diet, but it can also decrease a lot of absorption of the minerals and the vitamins that you don't have enough of anyway. Seizure medications, and here's a big one. Soybean-derived foods. I know you've heard that soy is good for this and this and this and this, and my answer to that is bull. It's not good. Now, you can, in the vitamin or supplement nutrition industry, you can extract some good things from soy, but I would avoid soy protein like the plague. It is not a good thing. Now, if it's fermented, it can be better. So, another thing, and I was talking to this guy. He is internationally known. He's kind of a big dog in one particular area. And I was telling him, I said, well, I know you're doing this and you look really good. If I looked that good, I'd take my shirt off too. But you need your liver fixed. Well, he ignored that because he, sometimes when you get in a very super important position and you get rich doing it, some people get to where they don't listen quite as well as they should. So I always try to remain humble and listen to people that are smarter than me. But his liver was not functioning good. His enzymes were within the reference range. But as Janet said before, what's in optimal range? And when you start burning all that fat and getting thin and healthy again, if your liver's not metabolizing it and gets clogged up with all that stuff, cholesterol and all the other types of fats, you don't really convert your thyroid things like you should, especially T4 to T3. But there's a big conversion that takes place with your testosterone, with your estradiol, with your progesterone. And that takes place in the liver and in the intestines too, at least 20% of that. So, think about it. I don't care how smart you are. We've become a nation that we have a lot of knowledge, but we don't have wisdom and understanding. The internet's made sure that we're educated fools. And even when I get sick, I ask for help. I ask for objectivity. I usually ask Janet first because she'll say, well, you need to do this and stop doing that. And it's like, I don't like what she says, but she's right. So sometimes even when your thyroid goes haywire, you can get PMS. Men, if your wife has that, be gentle about saying that. We've had many people that had infertility and pregnancy problems, would have miscarriages. And we get them healthy by giving them lots and lots of nutrition, very targeted nutrition. And all of a sudden, boom, they're pregnant and have a full-term, baby, and it's healthy. Nobody's named their baby after me yet. I don't understand that. I think Stephen's a good name. Not Eugene, but that's my middle name. Some of the things I want you to think about is, and I'm going to name off a few more symptoms, and there may be some that I've already named off, but almost all people that have a thyroid problem have hypothyroidism, which means it's not functioning as well as it should. There is hyper, which would be more toward Graves' disease. We don't see that as much. But here's some other symptoms, and pardon me if I name some of the same ones, but if your hair becomes dry and brittle, if you start losing your hair, your menstrual periods have become heavy, and then that's why we check the ferritin, just because some people are bleeding out so bad they can't rebuild the red blood cells, and they don't have enough iron to, take place in that process. Joint aches and pains. Well, it may be your thyroid, but that can also be food allergies. We're developing more and more allergies. I shared that article on Facebook the other day, and I'm Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. So those of you that want, mostly a little inspiration, but certainly some information, join Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis. Brittle nails, muscle cramps, weakness in your muscles. And there can be a lot of other issues with that. If your skin is dry, face and eyes puffy, which would be more me than Janet. Cold intolerance, gain more than 5 pounds. Usually it's in the 10 to 15 pound range. And again, that may be because of what you're eating that's also interfering with your thyroid function. Constipation. Well, we hear a lot of that. And
when you say constipation, you hear a lot of that. A lot of people don't even realize they're constipated.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe you could explain to them what normal bowel function is supposed to be.
Well, usually if you eat 3 meals a day, you need to, have 2 to 3 bowel movements. And Janet's famous for saying, well, if you have 3 trains going into a tunnel, how many trains do you expect to come out? And I've had people say, I was having the most delightful bowel movement this morning, and I was thinking of Janet. And I said, I bet she'll be glad to hear that. But, 3 trains in, 3 trains out. And people said, but I was thinking about this lady this morning that was working for us for a while, and she would poop every 3 to 6 weeks. And she was still thin. I don't know how she maintained that, but her mind went to hell in a bucket. Oh, did I say that? She couldn't think, and she was Janet's age, which is much younger and prettier than me. But it was her thyroid. And then some people will get the answer, but they won't stay with it. It's like, if you're getting healthier, happier, everything's getting better in your life, for goodness sake, stick with it.
Well, when you tell them they should go to the bathroom that many times, a lot of them will say, I've always done that. I've done that since I was a kid, so there's nothing wrong with it.
Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Right.
There goes the Stephenism. I even had a preacher one time that said, hey, I want you to come to my church because I'm going to talk about bowel movements. I said, I'll be there. I want to see how you dovetail that in and segue from here to here. And he did an incredible job. He's trying to get his congregation healthy. So we got to talk at his church several times, which was, to me, it was a lot of fun.
And honestly, they're linking a lot of the thyroid problems back from leaky gut syndrome, which was, the original culprit as to why your thyroid got sluggish to start with. So gut problems again, constipation.
Yeah, that mentioning leaky gut's a really good thing, and I think most of us have it. I know I do. I've had gut problems all my life, and that's one reason I think I'm a good expert at this, because I've lived it. I saw my daddy die when he was 53 because he had irritable bowel syndrome, and, the doctors were doing the best they could, but they said, well, we might have given him too many steroids and might have helped precipitate a heart attack, and we don't know. I mean, he was a good doctor. I liked him, went to him as a patient, and I think, well, geez, I could fix that if I had known then what I know now. And it's like you've got to learn to avoid certain foods, and I know I've been saying this for a month or two, but we're about to come up with a whole new series of labs that's going to expose that to a greater degree, because I am bad about testing these labs and seeing if they're consistent. Someday I'll do, if y'all get on Shooting Straight and ask me to, I'll do the expose and my experience with hair analysis.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Another thing, you tell people hypothyroidism, and then there's hyperthyroidism. on lab, when you're looking at that hypothyroidism, which is what most people are, like Dr. Lewis said, that's when your thyroid is actually sluggish. So your numbers are generally very low. You would think it's just the opposite, but if they will run a free T3, the numbers are on the very low end, which means it's not doing what it's supposed to do. The problem is that many times when you go to the doctor, most of them run something called a TSH, and that's a thyroid stimulating hormone. And you can read all about this in Dr. Lewis's book that he wrote, The Thyroid Sniper, where he kind of breaks everything down for you.
Kind of a brief, to the point, hit you where you live type book, which is incredibly, people have really told me they enjoyed it because it's sweet and to the point. That's how I live. That's how I speak. I've got another book that I've started on. I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but it's called If Antacids and Laxatives Are a Major Food Group, ... Maybe I should go ahead and finish that one.
But back to that, most of the doctors are running something called TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone. That's actually not thyroid function at all. And when you come in with one of these symptoms or complaints like Dr. Lewis just read off, and you tell them that, and they run your TSH, and they say, oh, it falls in a normal range. That range is huge. And it's not your actual thyroid function. So if it falls anywhere in that range, they say, oh, yeah, you look great. You don't have a problem with your thyroid at all. The problem is, as America gets sicker and fatter as a nation, those ranges are getting larger and larger because insurance companies control them. And so they're no
that's
longer...
a theory on our part.
Yeah,
we don't want any letters.
Well, big theory. But irregardless, the ranges have grown during the time that we've been doing lab. They get larger and larger, so then people fall in the range and then they're fine. But without running a free T3, you don't really know what your thyroid's doing. And that's when we do our lab, which we do what's called a comprehensive lab panel. We run 12 different panels because you'll notice that now when you go to your doctor, you're doing good to get 1 to 3 panels because insurance is generally involved.
Yeah.
And unless you have a problem in every specific area, they're not going to run that panel because then you're diagnosed with that problem.
And it's not your doctor. It's not their problem. They're frustrated with the system that they're in. Your doctor is a good person.
Right. So generally you're not getting all the lab panels that you need to. So we run 12 different panels. It includes 5 different parts of your thyroid so that we're no longer guessing at what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So if you go on our website, I believe that's the GWH1. It has a special, GWH3. It has a special bundled pricing on it.
Go ahead and belly up to the GWH1 if you're a female, because that includes some hormones. GWH2 for the males. It really helps me to help you much more effectively if I have the hormones. But remember when I said there was a conversion of T4 to T3 in your gut? That's done by probiotics, and we have one that probiotic. We have a lot of different probiotics, but we have one we're really, really proud of called ProbioLean. It's 60 capsules, and it's got different probiotics in it that people have told us, well, don't take it at night because it gives you too much energy. And, I started taking that, and I lost 8 or 10 pounds and didn't even change my diet. And I said, well, change your diet also, but I guess I'm going to have to try it because I've put on a little weight on vacation eating all that Amish food. But
that's funny. I started taking it at night. It doesn't give me energy at all. So I guess it just is whatever's going on with the person at the time.
But they're made to help increase your metabolism, thermogenesis, and help you lose weight. And I had a friend, I've had a lot of good reports that's the only thing they did different, and they started losing weight. There's a lot of other nutrients that are very, very important for the thyroid.
Well, when you talk about brain fog and trouble concentrating and forgetfulness, the one I'd like you to talk about that has worked very well, that people notice very quickly, is our Bacopa 320. Could you tell people a little bit about why that makes a difference and kind of what Bacopa is?
You notice how she reels me in and pushes me down a different rabbit trail than where I was going. Yeah, I'll talk about Bacopa. I really didn't know a whole lot about it. And, one time Janet was I was going through some stuff, and Janet says, here, take this. I didn't even know much about it, so I started taking it. Holy cow, the energy it gave me and mental acuity. And that's why I tell people that even when I'm sick, I don't diagnose or treat myself. I look for somebody that's more objective, and Janet kind of has skin in the game or dog in the fight. She wants me healthy, so she gives me a lot of stuff because she loves me, right? The Bacopa, and it's got to be a special kind, but the dumbed-down version is it supports working memory. It supports new information retention. I know that because we have some students that are taking it and their grades are going up. It works with stress management, and it works with mood. That's the dumbed down version. The little upscale version is it supports neural connections related to memory, supports free radical scavenging activity in the brain. So if you have the brain fog, stress, anxiety, depression, whatever, that's a good thing. It helps the blood flow to the brain. It helps synaptic spasticity or plasticity, either way you want to put it. And the synapses are where these little neurotransmitters or happy hormones have to jump the gap. And that supports the brain-derived neurotropic factor and serotonin. Serotonin is the neurotransmitter that makes you feel the peace of God and makes you remember why you married that husband of yours. He'll get better looking when you take this stuff.
And not all Bacopa is the same, correct? This one is different formulated?
Yeah, that's true. It's, it gets kind of technical, but this is the good stuff. It's the CDRI 08, and they did 6 clinical human trials on it that worked real well.
That's not something you're going to find in the health food store then, I'm assuming.
No, there's a lot of different qualities, and people think, well, it says this, and it's like, all humans are different. Your ex was different. Supplements are different too. But let me go down another rabbit trail for a minute. There are so many different nutrients that you need for proper thyroid function. The B6, that's the one that allows the blood-brain barrier to be crossed with the neurotransmitters. So happy. Folate, it's got to be, it's got to be there with your B12 and iodine. I'm naming some of the things that's in our thyroid essentials. Selenium, copper, tyrosine, which is an amino acid that's free form, and it's got a whole gram of it, which is a big deal. Then it's got Google, which does a lot of things for the thyroid, but also helps lower your cholesterol. And then ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is an incredible adaptogenic herb. The Thyroid Essentials has been incredibly popular. And I'd just like to talk about one more thing as far as supplements, because this is... Janet gave me some, and I don't swallow real well for whatever reason we won't get into, but I chewed them up because this particular one is not a capsule. I'll swallow a capsule, but I don't swallow tablets, and I just chewed them up. Tasted like terrible, but it's worth it, and it's called stress response. Now, why would I talk about stress response when we're talking about thyroid? Because if your thyroid's getting weak, the adrenal glands are going to try to support the weakened thyroid. Then you get adrenal fatigue after you've had your adrenals stressed out. You can't shut your brain down at night. And you get all stressed, and that's where the anxiety comes from in some people. And then you keep it up and you go into adrenal exhaustion. Well, this stress response has acetyl L-carnitine, and I do sell straight acetyl L-carnitine, but it's better in this stress response. It's got glutamine, which helps heal the GI tract wall. Remember, T4 to T3 conversion. It's got the tyrosine. It's got all kinds of other stuff. And again, ashwagandha, blueberry, ginkgo, L-ethyrio, phosphatidylserine. It's got several other things in it, but it is like, oh my God. I chewed those things up, and there's only about 4 or 5 different supplements that I can tell for sure, because I'm like, I feel good. I don't know if that thing helped or not. I took this, and 30 minutes later, I had energy. Oh my God. Janet gives it to me on these trips where I'm driving real far, and I don't drive as far as I used to. But she'll say, here, take 2 of these. Hey, that's better than Starbucks with a shot in it, and you don't get the nervous energy. It supports my adrenal glands. That is kick butt in a good way.
Well, and I'd also like to talk about another group of people that get overlooked quite often. You know, we always talk about hypothyroidism people and people with those type symptoms. But there's another group called hyperthyroidism, which is people that have a racing thyroid. It's going too fast. They tell me they feel like their head's walking way ahead of their body. Some of the symptoms are insomnia and sleep troubles. They're nervous. They have anxiety as well.
Bulging eyes.
They have a racing heart. Unexplained weight loss. They're too thin. The other side of the spectrum is they have multiple bowel movements. They're going to the bathroom too many times a day. They also have high amounts of perspiration and thin, brittle hair. So the stress response, like Dr. Lewis talked about, would be a great product for them to help calm them down and, get the thyroid back in alignment.
But it'll work for either one, for adrenal exhaustion, which I have, or the ones that are hyper, like Janet talks about. It's great because it just helps your body adapt to the stress. That's a good point. Most of us are zinc and selenium deficient, and that's you can talk about that and cancer and all that, but you don't even utilize that properly unless you have the right bacteria. So you always want to remember the probiotics, and they're not all the same. You don't get good iodine connection to the thyroid because we're so full of chloride or chlorine in our water, fluoride and fluorine. Why they put that in our water, I'll never know. It dumbs us down. And even flour is fortified with bromine. Why? 100 years ago, they used to fortify it with iodine. So all three, the fluoride, chloride, and bromide, compete with where iodine should go. And then you have the autoimmune problem of Hashimoto's. There are some experts that have written books, and I've read dozens and dozens and dozens of other people's books and read real research, and some people say never give anybody iodine that has Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder. So have your doctor run a TPO with thyroid antibodies if you suspect that, if you have the bouncing numbers on the thyroid. And then you've got another so-called expert that says you can give them 50 to 75 milligrams of iodine, which I think is like, holy God, overdose. We do it in small amounts. We do it very, very conservatively. And these people that have joint issues, why is it when we give them supplements to help their thyroid and or adrenals, their joints get better, their fibromyalgia gets better, their chronic fatigue syndrome gets better, they have more energy? They build that deck with the lumber that's been sitting there for 7 years because they have the energy to do it. They get the spark back in their life. Their wife starts looking better. Their husband, their beer gut shrinks in the woman's mind, at least. So, there's a reason to be healthy. There's a reason to be happy. The world is not as bad as the news would portray. The problem is if you listen to the news and read the paper, well, if you don't listen to the news and read the paper, you're uninformed. If you do listen to the news and read the paper, you're misinformed. So, which one do you want to do it? Go to somebody that's healthy, that's happy, that brings you that little sunshine back in your life. And the world is a good place. It's still, we're capable of being happy. We're capable of being healthy. We're capable of being prosperous. We have the energy, but you just have to put the nutrients in so your body can convert it to energy, convert it to these happy hormones, the neurotransmitters, and then all of a sudden the world looks brighter and better. So be an inspiration to someone else. And that's what Janet and I try to do. God knows she's given me more inspiration than I've probably given her because she's always Little Miss Sunshine. So that's the reason we do this. And whether it's your thyroid or whatever, again, thank you for sharing our podcast. We've more than doubled our listenership very, very recently. And, get on our website and, fill out the health survey. Get lab if you're interested in getting healthy and having hope again and feeling good and taking care of yourself so you can take better care of the people around you. It really does matter.
And we have people ask, well, can I send lab over that I've had recently and let you look at it? If it's within the last 2 or 3 months and you have a thyroid panel that you would like Dr. Lewis to look at to see if you think, what his opinion is about it, feel free to do that. Our email is on our website, greenwisdomhealth.com. Fill out a health survey to go with it because that'll help him better understand what you're looking for. And again, like he said, we very much appreciate your listenership. We would appreciate you letting us know what you would like to hear topics about because it helps us as well. And you can do that on Shooting Straight with Dr. Lewis on the Facebook group or sending us an email, either way. But thank you. We will be here again next week on the Green Wisdom Health Show.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.